Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of the VC Circle Microsoft Capital Circle partnership, where we really examine the relationships between startup founders, their investors, and of course the role that Microsoft is playing to actually help the ecosystem and the entrepreneurs actually move forward and build world-class, world-beating companies. Today I have the pleasure of having two fantastic people to chat with. Let me start by introducing Mitesh Shah from Inflection Point Ventures. Mitesh started his career at Mandana Industries, where he was actually also involved in the IPO of the company. And as he shared with me, he was instrumental in signing up the partnership with Salman Khan's Being Human Clothing a decade ago. After that, he moved on to join Ola as the CFO. He was there for several years, saw the company's explosive growth, and then decided that the entertainment business was a better place to be. So he jumped on to Book My Show, which is, of course, a company I'm sure many of you would have used the services of. I certainly, love buying my tickets from them, and I'm delighted to say I've used them again recently, as I watched my first movie after many, many months in the theater. And of course, once the entrepreneurial bug had bitten him, Mitesh left it all behind, all of these unicorns, and co-founded Inflection Point Ventures, which is a very unique combination of being an angel network, which also has a little bit of a fund on the side, I think. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about it, but I can tell you that there are 5,000 plus members today, and are partnering with many companies, including Puneet's company, Precinto. Puneet, of course, is a very, very exciting individual in his own right, an engineer and technologist at heart, and one of the huge evangelists of clean tech in the country. And, he's been involved in the clean tech sector for many years, and he was part of Gensol, one of the largest renewable energy services group, and now leads Precinto. In due course, I'll let him tell you what the company really does in some detail. But he did choose a very fascinating segment of the clean tech industry. And he decided to leverage his and his colleagues' capabilities in really driving a data-driven company in this particular space, and really helping to make grids more efficient and the whole sector more efficient, thereby helping us as a society to take advantage of clean technology and renewable technology in a more efficient and effective way. And as I sit here today introducing my guests, I'm in Delhi, and we have a relatively clean air day today because the AQI is only 350, right? And as I remove my tongue from my cheek, I'll tell you that any Delhiite will vouch for the fact that we need clean tech everywhere. We need it in power generation. We need it in the way that we manage our construction activities. We need it in the agricultural sector, and we need it, in mobility and whatever else you can think of. And while Delhi leads in terms of being under the spotlight for its smog problem and its pollution problem, the reality is that this is a challenge which is bedeviling practically all of urban India. Even the coastal areas, which many thought were immune because of the sea breezes, are now seeing very scary air pollution scores. And it's a race to the bottom. And this is a race that no one should ever want to win. And on that dreadful note, let me start the discussion off. Puneet, let me start with you, sir. Welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about what your company does and your view on the clean tech sector.
Thank you, Jaideep, for that very generous introduction. If you look at the electricity grid, the way it has existed, you'll see that over the last 75 years, practically nothing has changed. The same poles, the same transmission lines, the same transformers, largely the same generators as well. So 75 years, we have gone without innovation, without disruption. But only in the last 5-10 years, there's a new disruptor on the block. There is solar and wind technology which is scaling up in amazing ways. So this sector is getting poised for major disruption with these greener sources of energy, which are not only good because they are good for the environment, but also today are beating the coal and oil and gas at their own game, as they are cheaper than coal and oil and gas in many parts of the world as well. While we are talking about this, there's a parallel technology disruption also which is happening all across the world. We have got unlimited mobile penetration. We have got unlimited internet connectivity. We have got unlimited cloud space, and we have got unlimited cloud-based processing power available at even a startup's disposal now. Now, these two amazing disruptions coming from two different sides is giving an amazing recipe of different kind of innovations in the clean tech sector all across the world, one of them being Presento. What we do is that we take data from solar projects and wind projects all across the world, get them to our cloud, use cloud's abilities, and run our data science AI models on top of that data to give very specific insights that what you need to do to be able to improve your generation. This gets tied into a workflow automation engine. We guide the engineers on the ground to be able to tell exactly what they need to do. And when they intervene and their actions are taken, that leads to a 5% improvement of generation for solar and wind plants. We have been able to create this impact so far for 12,000 megawatts across 14 countries. And that's just the beginning.
Wonderful. Yeah. And we'll come back to a little bit more depth and detail on that. But Mitesh, let me come to you now, sir. Tell us a little bit about what Inflection Point Ventures does. And of course, you've invested in Presento, and I know it's not your only clean tech investment either. So what's your view on the sector and its importance for the country?
Thanks, Jaideep. First of all, thanks for having me, and always great to be sitting beside dynamic founders like Punit and supporting them. And that's precisely what we do at Inflection Point Venture. Idea is to identify startups which can make a difference to India, catch them young, help them. I think that's the most difficult part, which I fail to understand why, in the ecosystem, people at early stage could not do it earlier. But at Inflection Point Venture, we set out to create an ecosystem where, through our network of CXOs, we not only help the early stage founder with capital. Capital probably is available for good founders in plenty. What at early stage founders also need is backing in terms of guidance, business connects with VCs for next round of funding, and a lot more like our partnership with Microsoft will drive for, again, startups like Presento and some other dynamic founders. So this in a nutshell, what we do at Inflection Point Ventures. We are an angel investment platform as well as an AIF, a fund through which we invest into startups. Have a portfolio of 100 plus startups, and clean tech is one of the sector which at IPV as well as personally for me as one of the co-founder is very close to my heart. Obviously for the right reason, Jaideep, that you spoke about, that it's not only a genuine problem statement to solve, but this is the future, right? As early stage investors, what excites us is to invest into futuristic idea, right, which can drive the next level of growth. Right, talking about Presento, I think clean tech energy is going to be the future, and the way Punit and team have set about creating the SaaS platform for solar as well as wind energy, that's just commendable. We have been on platform for less than a year now and already seeing some great results in terms of what they are able to achieve. So generally with clean tech, we have also invested in mobility platforms which drives only on EV vehicles like BlueSmart, and we have invested in some waste management startups as well. So sector has plenty to offer. What's important to understand is obviously that the commercial behind that, the growth prospect, the gestation period, the kind of markets that we are able to penetrate, and the growth then we are going to achieve. And as investor, I think it's important to support them with tech and product. I think that's going to be key over here. Clean tech has been around for a while now, but I think the tech part that was missing, and that's where Punit and team kind of drive a value, because scalability will come with this tech aspect, the kind of solution that they're offering. You see their clientele and the who's who of energy industries today working with Presento purely because of the scalability and the solution that they are driving. So this is what we do at Inflection Point Venture. What we feel is relatively a simpler job of backing people like Punit and the other startups which are solving this problem. But turns out that it's really something which is unique, and then we try to do that in a holistic manner.
Right. No, thanks for that, Mitesh. And when I say that IPV is playing a very crucial role in promoting the entrepreneurial ecosystem, because early stage capital is ever so important, and you are the folks who typically trust the entrepreneurs before anybody else does. So that's a noble mission. Preet, let me come back to you. You talked about the mobile explosion. You talked about cloud becoming, sort of ubiquitous, and really, I call it the infrastructure for the digital age. It's the true infrastructure for modern society. Mitesh also then touched upon the fact that technology is now coming into clean tech. Earlier it was clean energy, now it's clean tech. In the middle of all this, what we observe is that there are now 2 or 3 hyperscalers, who are becoming default cloud service providers. And of course, the Microsoft platforms are one of them, but there are also others. So tell us a little bit about what your partnership has been with these tech giants, and indeed how have they been able to help to accelerate growth in your company or make things better. I'll hand over to you to share your experience with us.
Thank you again. So it's an old saying, right, that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it is pretty much the same thing when it comes to startups. And we are very fortunate that in addition to having the unique distinction of being backed by IPV, we have also been given the support by Microsoft, on which all of our platform is based. A platform like Microsoft had multiple benefits for us. For one, as Microsoft for Startups company, we got a platform of recognition and also of credits that were very useful for us in the beginning journey. But there are many intangibles that simple discounts are not able to capture. The fact that the moment you say that you're a Microsoft Azure based platform, the credibility, the sense of security that a customer, particularly the enterprise customer, which is there in our sector, which is a critical infrastructure sector, that is unmatchable by anybody else. So very, very happy that we made this choice early on in our journey, that we stuck to one of the best, most reputed names, and today it is paying all the dividends for it.
How interesting. When you talk about the Microsoft name helping in a critical infrastructure sector, is it also because many of your customers may frankly also be, kind of Microsoft customers as well? Is there a familiarity there which breeds that comfort, or is it something else?
To a very large extent, that is a reason. The good part is that Microsoft has such a deep penetration in so many enterprises all across the world that practically every second customer that we run into is comfortable with the fact that we are Azure-based, right? There's a familiarity to that. What also happens is that many of these enterprise customers and also the laws of the land, they end up dictating that their data needs to be kept with them. And since we are the ones who are built on Microsoft Azure Cloud, it becomes very easy for us to deploy the same exact platform on their country's cloud or on their own private Microsoft Azure Cloud as well. So because of all of these and because of the deep penetration of Microsoft at an enterprise scale all across the world, our go-to-market becomes a lot faster.
Got it. Thanks, Puneet. Mitesh, from a wider perspective, the hyperscalers, cloud service providers, and indeed, dare I say, the wider tech industry has been playing a stellar role in promoting the startup ecosystem across the board. I mean, you could argue it's enlightened self-interest, and I wouldn't negate that. But nevertheless, the system of, for example, free credits for the really early stage companies, the technical help that companies get from the likes of Microsoft and their peer companies and so on. I have seen myself, it makes a material difference in helping entrepreneurs in their early days. As an investor, how important do you think that is? And indeed, is it a widespread phenomena with Microsoft and their peer companies helping a number of companies in your portfolio, for example?
Sure. Like I just begin with that. At early stage, startups need a lot more thing than capital. Right? Capital obviously is one of the aspects, but the other aspects around help with product technology, hiring, and a lot of other aspects that goes to make a sustainable and sound business. Partners like Microsoft really help IPV achieve that objective. Today, out of 100 of our company, at least 30 to 40 are in touch with Microsoft for discussion at various stages in terms of using their product. Puneet spoke about the power of AWS, Azure. Now, these are indispensable tool for any early stage startup, and the credit, not only the commercial aspect where they give this free credits and all, but also the quality of service and the way it helps them to build their solution on cloud. These are some amazing solution early on for these ventures. So for us also as IPV, as we set about the larger mission of helping the startup 360-degree support, partners like Microsoft are our God gift. The way they approach about startup. I mean, I was actually thrilled the way they even take care of the smallest of the queries of the early stage startups and all, in spite of such large volume and all. So it's that customer centricity which goes to make a good startup, as we always see when we invest into early stage startup. I was pleasantly surprised to see that even in Microsoft solution being such a large behemoth that they are, right? So I think that goes on a long way in terms of building their brand credibility, as well as applying their solution even to early stage. Gone are the days where you look them only as a company which is helping the large scale startups, right? Players like us as IPV, when we work with smaller stage startup, early stage startup, partners like Microsoft actually has come up with special programs to help these entities, and that's what we love about this partnership. I'm sure it will go a long way in terms of the overall development of the early stage startup environment.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mitesh. Coming back to you, we're entering the last chapter of this little talk of ours. When you look out 5-10 years into the future, right? I think it's safe to say that probably 100% of the investment dollars in the energy space are now going into clean tech. Just the other day, I was at the airport, and the French oil company Total, they've now rebranded themselves as Total Energies, and they're employing all kinds of ways and means to not be seen as a petroleum company, right? And that was, BP's become beyond petroleum rather than British Petroleum, and they all their coloring is green. So, and credit to them, they're all also investing heavily in solar and so on. So it's not just a marketing gimmick. What that tells me is that Presinto is sitting in the middle of all this, providing a very critical service to folks who are in the energy space. Next 5 to 10 years, how do they look like to you? Where do you see your company going? And how do you see the evolution of the clean energy sector?
So COP26 is recently behind us, and lots of leaders have made huge commitments on their commitment towards moving into solar, wind, into renewable energy. So we are only seeing that the sector is gathering more and more momentum and more pace. We are expecting that about $400 billion of investment is going to happen every year at the minimum in this sector. Most likely it will be closer to $1 trillion in the middle of this decade itself. So those are the kind of scales we're talking about. By 2030, a country like India is going to have 50% of its entire energy mix powered by renewable energy, largely solar and wind again. So solar and wind time has come in a major way, and there is absolutely no denying that, right? And it has ripple effects all across the ecosystem. One of those ripple effects is also going to be the fact that solar and wind is not available 24 hours a day. So you'll have to store some part of that energy that is being produced to be able to consume during your peak hours of consumption during the evening. So second other effects is that energy storage is going to come up in a major way on the scene as well. In addition to electric vehicle-based storage, you'll have stationary storage to complement solar and wind-based power generation sources. And in middle of all of that, in middle of that explosion on the green wave, sits Presinto selling shovels to all the gold miners of Adani's and Macquarie's and NL's of
May
the
you
world.
sell lots of shovels for it. May you sell lots of shovels, because we need to use ourselves. Mitesh, closing question to you. Puri's quite right, and I think it's publicly available information as well, that there's a political commitment, there are investment dollars flowing in, the sector is booming all over the world. I don't think there's a single country where clean tech is not in focus. As an investor, where do you see the opportunities in the next 5 years in this sector? I'll leave it as an open question, because I'm sure you're already evaluating companies right now. So give us a little bit of color on that.
So thanks, Jaideep. Very interesting question. So as investor, we see trends emerging in the market. Last year was all about edutech, where everybody was just going gung-ho about funding every edutech story and all. Fintech has evolved over a period of time, and that remains a sector which is always, the cherry of the eye for all the investors and all. And then we have seen, journeys of health tech, content, OTT platforms, right, gaming, clean tech, and also about D2C brands, right, and a lot of other sectors. So there are some flavors of the season which actually, kind of does a U-shaped sort of a recovery or sort of a right-shaped sort of a recovery and all, and kind of keep growing. And there are sectors like clean tech which are relatively long-term and all. So it's important to have realistic expectation when you invest in a sector, right? We, as though we are VCs and we are early stage VCs and all, do not expect miracle to happen overnight. It's very, very important to have a patient pool of capital for a sector like clean tech, which is solving the futuristic problem. And obviously, I think there will be a lot more further discoveries as you go about doing this. The government policies will change, the dynamics will change, the cost structure, the revenue structure, everything it's still to be proven. I think it's still a long way to go, but I think we have started on a good note. So excited about this journey, but at the same time, my advice to fellow investors, especially the funds coming in at early stage, is that I think we need to have some patience for growth of this sector and support the sector and the enterprises with your support more than capital in terms of your guidance and providing them the required connects in the market.
Wonderful. Puneet and Mitesh, on that optimistic note, which tells me that there's going to be a lot of investing going on in the clean tech space, a lot of growth. And ultimately, I think the really important thing is that it will have a lot of positive societal impact and helping us all lead healthier, dare I say, less polluted lives. Technology is going to be right at the core of it. We're going to need a ton of cloud services, the ability to use and process data intelligently. And as Puneet rightly pointed out, new storage systems and technologies will come in as well. Exciting times ahead. Puneet Jaggi, Mitesh Shah, thank you for your time today. And I sign off from the second episode of the Microsoft Capital Circle's partnership with VC Circle.
Thanks, Jaideep. Thank you so much for having us over here.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.